Hi guys, welcome back to Byte Review, where this time we're looking at something totally fresh, interesting and quite exciting really. This is the NuAns Neo, a Windows 10 mobile, but you probably haven't seen one like this before. Now let's get stuck in with the unique feature of this phone. It's the customization. This isn't just about picking your look for the Neo, it actually makes up an integral part of the device. Initially, the phone simply comes as a core, which pretty much only gives you the device and a charging wire. It looks like a normal phone with the back off, that is of course until you add the cases to not only complete the construction of the phone, but also the look of the device. And the amount of options for customization is so awesome. NuAns have really spoilt you for choice here. The cases come in two forms, either a two-tone selection, which is made up of a top and a bottom, or a full flip cover, which covers the phone from front to back. All of the cases are really well designed and have a real feel of considered care and personal touch. NuAns are clearly super passionate about these cases and it really shows in the quality. The two-tone selection of cases range from a military green khaki to a smooth suede and pretty much everything in between. I'm currently rocking the dark wood topped with a smooth black. The flip covers are also an excellent example of wonderful design. They clip to the back of the device and cover it entirely, wrapping it into a wallet style of case. There's also a magnet embedded within which turns the screen on or off depending on if you choose to open or close the wallet. And as a cherry on top, the case also folds out to become a makeshift kickstand for the phone as well. Neat. After you've made your choice of case, you'll find the phone is a little chunkier than probably what you're used to. It kind of reminds me of a Lumia 920. However, there's two good reasons for that. The first of all is a big 3350 mAh battery, which is always a welcome sight, but also NuAns' idea behind the phone. The cases you add to the device actually make up a case that you'd normally add, so you're not really supposed to add a third-party case to this phone. NuAns have noticed while so many people enjoy having a slim and metallic phone, it's really rarely seen, and that's because people usually throw some form of case on them. In other design features, it's good to see the addition of a microSD card slot, but there's something a little more interesting at work here as well. The Neo has a card slot grooved in next to the battery, and the idea behind this is so you can add any NFC enabled card into the phone, whether it's a bank card or an Oyster card, allowing you to simply pay by tapping your phone instead of fumbling to get your cards out. So the Neo is actually designed with that built in as such. The Neo is also rocking USB Type-C, which is a nice future-proofing addition, and it also comes hand in hand with some fast charging as well. A real pain point for the Neo though is its screen. It's a 720p panel, and I know you shouldn't judge a screen by its resolution alone, look at the iPhone for example, but it's hard to digest that a company's flagship device is running on this resolution in the tail end of 2016. Pixels make a visible return to the screen when we've all but forgotten about them in this age of Quad HD pixel peeping monsters. Now, I could forgive the resolution of the screen if it was super bright or super responsive, or if the device was overall a bit cheaper, but it's simply not. I found myself having this screen at 100% all the time regardless of the light level. The second you take this phone outside, even on a moderately bright day, the screen suddenly becomes really difficult to see. This is especially apparent when trying to take photos, which just turns into a case of pointing the Neo in the right direction and really hoping for the best. Looking at the software, the Neo runs Windows 10 Mobile of course, and while it does still lag behind its iOS and Android counterparts, it's seen some really decent updates recently. Twitter, Facebook and even Instagram now run a lot better on the system thanks to some new apps, despite some of them being iOS ports, and the anniversary update for mobile, which will roll out soon to the Neo, has also made the system feel more complete as a whole. However, the bigger story here is that the Neo runs Windows 10's secret move, Continuum. Thanks to a Snapdragon 617 octa-core chip coupled with 2GB of RAM, the Neo can continue to push Windows Mobile to the big screen through a wireless connection. While Continuum hasn't seen any huge updates recently, it has the addition of a few new apps, including Instagram, which runs quite nicely on the big screen, and I'm sure it will continue to develop as developers continue to make UWP apps for Windows 10. And of course, Microsoft Office is here in its full glory, a real poster child of the genuinely amazing Continuum apps. Camera-wise, the Neo is pushing a 13 megapixel snapper. Now, a lot of phones nowadays seem to run on a 13 megapixel sensor, and they can really range from being simply spectacular to kind of absurdly average, and unfortunately the Neo does seem to be more, well, average. Photos from the Neo lean towards a flat, muddy and sometimes noisy profile. They can occasionally look okay on the surface, but a small zoom will reveal all sorts of troubles this camera has. There is an HDR setting which can help in more difficult lighting situations if you're prepared to deal with the noise that accompanies it. And the camera has a tendency to underexpose a little as well, unless you're in optimal lighting. And then even if you are, it struggles to pick out the finer details. The grass here is a good example of that. Another frustration is the viewfinder frame rate can't seem to keep up with the camera. There are plenty of occasions where the screen would stutter while moving the camera around. Autofocus was pretty hit and miss as well, and the focus time was also really disappointing. The Neo hunted quite a lot before taking snaps, even when tapping to focus. This combined with the dark screen made the camera experience on the Neo somewhat lagging, which is a real shame. All that aside, it's not to say it can't take nice photos, because occasionally it will pull something out the bag that's more than good enough for a social media share, keeping colours fairly neutral and details quite well. It just doesn't happen that often. Back to good things now. The battery on the Neo has been really good. Getting through a day hasn't been a challenge, and I generally find myself with about 15 to 20% of power left as the day comes to an end. I must admit I expected a little better out of it than that, considering the screen resolution and the brightness output. However, I was happy nonetheless. Rapid charging certainly lived up to the claims as well, and I could easily pour in a lovely 70 to 80% of charge within an hour. So with all of that, you might find yourself wondering who exactly this phone is for. Who is it really aimed at? Well, the Neo isn't trying to convince anyone to switch from iOS or Android to Windows 10 Mobile. If you're considering this phone, then you've probably already made up your decision on that. It's aimed at people who might already be convinced on Windows Phone, and let's face it, if you want a Windows Phone with awesome customizable options and Continuum support, your choice is actually very slim, so this phone might stand out for you. There's also the argument that the Neo is aimed at business people who want an entire solution for themselves or from their employees' devices. A huge amount of businesses will soon be running on Windows 10, so having employees' phones run Windows 10 Mobile makes a lot of sense. It also gives them more control over the phone as a whole, even incorporating company-specific apps. The Continuum support almost speaks for itself in terms of business too. Having Office documents available at all times for editing regardless of what screen you have access to makes a lot of sense. So let's round up. On the plus side, I think the customization is really unique and an interesting way to design a device, and the fact that it supports Continuum is always a welcome sight in a Windows phone. On the negative side, the screen definitely needs an upgrade, and the camera just didn't hit the right notes for me. So there we have it. There's no doubt in my mind that this is one of the most unique phones of this year. It's flawed, sure, but there really isn't another phone like it, and to say that in 2016 is a complete rarity. So props to NuAns for trying something different in the market of boring black slabs. If you're interested in the Neo, then I'll include all relevant links to it in the description, so be sure to take a peek. Also, a huge thank you to NuAns for letting me get some hands-on time with this device. Thanks for watching this review guys, and if you've enjoyed it, stick around, I'll be uploading more videos soon.